Welcome to ACPE's 2020 member meeting. We'll begin in just a few more minutes. While you're waiting, you'll notice the control panel on the right-hand side. It may be minimized, and you can make it bigger by clicking the orange arrow to minimize and maximize your attendee panel. If you would like to participate, please use the chat box in the control panel to send us messages. Melissa, you have 230 members, well over the established quorum. Turning the camera over to you. I think you're muted.
Good afternoon. The 2020 members annual meeting of the Association for Clinical Pastoral Education will now come to order. I'm Melissa Walker-Luckett, your board chair, and it is my privilege to preside at this meeting this afternoon. Welcome to you all. The chair now calls on Reverend Dr. Danielle Bukuro to give our opening reflection.
Melissa, I'm sorry, I think Danielle is missing.
Oh, okay. Then we'll just go on. How about, I don't know how to get myself back up on the screen. The chair would now like to offer the following announcements. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this is ACPE's first online annual member meeting. Thank you for taking the time today from your busy schedules to hear the business of ACPE. Please be patient with us as we navigate our new meeting platform. Attendees may post questions and comments in the chat box. Our staff are monitoring the chat box to answer questions and forward discussion topics to the chair. Our bylaws mandate that this annual meeting shall be held each year to allow the membership to hear various reports and to conduct the business of our association. We'll review the specific business in a few minutes when we consider the proposed agenda. The chair will remind the membership of the rules of decorum, such as refraining from questioning the motives of other members. Also, a member, if addressing an issue, should speak only about the matter immediately under consideration. Members should not speak directly to each other during proceedings, but rather address all remarks to the chair. We hope you will take your responsibility seriously today and consider diligently the matters before the Assembly. Members are asked to consider the value of each member's time and are asked for their assistance in keeping the meeting on schedule. According to Article 6, Section 4 of our bylaws, we do have a quorum. We have a membership of approximately 2,177, 109, and we are twice that. In compliance with the provisions of our parliamentary authority, Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, the Board of Directors has appointed a set of standing rules, approved a set of standing rules for the annual meeting. A copy of these rules is included in your annual meeting materials. Unless there is any objection, these rules will constitute the rules for this meeting in addition to the rules found in Robert's Rules. If you have an objection, please chat that to the staff.
Melissa, if you're ready, Danielle Bahuro is now here and can lead the opening devotion.
Okay, that'd be great. Yes, welcome, Danielle.
John or Mark, are you able to unmute Danielle so she can speak?
Good afternoon. Let us enter into this moment of reflection. During this time, may the Divine One be with us in these moments. May the Divine bless us with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that we may live deep within our hearts. May the Divine bless us with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that we may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May the Divine bless us with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that we may reach out our hands to comfort them and turn their pain into joy. And may the Divine bless us with enough foolishness to believe that we can make a difference in the world, so that we can do what others may claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all our children and the poor. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Danielle. John, have there been any objections to the standing rules?
No, the standing rules are adopted.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
There are no objections.
Thank you. Then we will move on. Hearing no objection, these standing rules are approved. The next item of business is the approval of the proposed agenda for this meeting. The proposed agenda is now being displayed on the screens. John, is it on the screen? All I see is the annual member meeting beginning screen.
I believe it is on the screen.
There it is.
Thank you. If there is no objection, the agenda will be adopted. Next, the chair draws your attention to the minutes of the 2019 annual meeting. These minutes are found in your annual meeting materials. Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, suggests that it is not wise to wait an entire year to approve minutes. And so last year, the chair appointed Sheila Hammond, Matthew Rhodes, and Robert Renix as the minutes approval committee. This committee reviewed the proposed minutes and approved them as they are printed before you. So there is no need for any action by this meeting on the approval of the minutes. At this time, the chair appoints the following persons to serve as the minutes review committee for this year's minutes: Claire Bamberg, Robert Renix, and Marie Chalet. Each person has agreed to this responsibility. Now we move to the next item of business this afternoon, and it is the report from the executive director. And so it is with pleasure that the chair recognizes our executive director, Trace Haythorne.
Thank you, Melissa. It is good to be with you all. My report is included in the packet that you can download from the control panel. I can share with you now the content of that. Like so much of in our lives these days, my report is really divided into two sections. There is the before and there is the now. The before was characterized by three major themes from our work: our conversations with our strategic partners, evolving international partnerships, and operational advancements. Regarding the strategic partners, over the last 18 months, the ACPE board chair, chair-elect, and executive director have met with peer representatives from APC, NACC, and NAJC. Currently, negotiations are primarily between APC and ACPE due to limitations for both NACC and NAJC in considering shared structures. The process feels very open-ended, with no clear sense of when we might make decisions, largely due to the disruptions from the pandemic. In terms of international partnerships, the ACPE International Relations Committee has been busily reviewing and evaluating standards of CP organizations in 2 countries, with more to come. Because travel's been suspended, progress has also been hampered, though we hope to finalize something with Ireland ACPE in the coming months. Rod Seeger, Kido An, and Kamal Abu Shamseh ran a very effective unit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, just before the pandemic hit, one that may help us learn ways of partnering on similar efforts around the globe. And in terms of operational advancements, in December 2019, ACPE moved into new office space, saving the association over $60,000 a year. Of course, we have now been primarily working from home, but we hope to get back to that office space soon. In August, we will roll out a new database and a new website. Note the website is built on the database, thus the need for both at the same time, including many improvements requested by members. This process began back in December 2019 as well. The office staff wants to offer a special word of thanks to ACPE educator Stuart Harrell for his tremendous support and knowledge in helping us improve the SharePoint system that undergirds our programs. Of course, we now have the COVID-19 pandemic and the racism pandemic. The majority of work in both of these areas has been due to the dedication, innovative spirit, and creativity of our members. Special thanks to Mark Medwed, John Roche, Tiffany Kindred, and Ruth McPhail-Ubaldo from the office staff for their support for members in these efforts. I also want to note that Catherine Higgins has been instrumental in this work as well. To date, dozens of articles have been published, as well as news segments recorded across the US and around the globe, as well as many webinars for both our organization and others, featuring our certified educators and their efforts to rethink meaningful and effective spiritual care amidst the constraints of the pandemic. Staff have worked with partners at the Chaplaincy Innovation Lab and Transforming Chaplaincy to provide background and help direct media contacts to our members. In 2019, the board asked board member and certified educator Danielle Bahuro to chair a task force to design our 2021 national conference to address anti-bias practice and pedagogies. We had no idea that this group would have to move this conference online at the time, but they continue to make progress moving this forward. Our advocacy committee, under the leadership of ACPE certified educator Jeremy Gilmore and in partnership with the Anti-Bias Task Force, has made two strong statements in response to the shootings of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor. That work has led to a series that launches this week, this Friday, that's titled 846, 8 sessions of 46 minutes each, about how to teach in a CPE setting related to these issues. It is a member-led initiative to address racism and systemic white privilege, even within ACPE. So what about the future? As you will hear from ACPE Secretary Treasurer Linda Wilkerson, ACPE is on good and solid financial footing. We have cash reserves that can carry us for at least 6 months before we would need to draw on endowment funds, and the foundation has largely recovered from a devastating second quarter of 2020. The Board of Directors and Finance Committee are to be commended for their financial stewardship of this incredibly challenging time. In addition, thanks to Tom White, the ACPE Foundation Treasurer, and to Patrick McCoy, the ACPE Foundation Chair, for their leadership during this time as well. You'll hear from Patrick later too. I wish we could see a show of hands of how many educators swore they would never embrace video-based pedagogies, only now to incorporate them fully into their programs because of the limitations of COVID-19. Prior to the pandemic, Mark Medwed was asked by our Department of Education contact to submit paperwork for online recognition, even though such was not yet required. Our paperwork was approved in the summer of 2019, a move that now seems prescient. Due to Department of Education restrictions and the Accreditation Commission's concern about member safety, the decision to suspend site visits in 2020 has led to the development of new methods of reviewing portfolios. Similar efforts have been made by the Certification Commission, and both have raised important questions about how we will use these new practices and new learnings in the future. We have many questions. When will we travel again? As many of you are aware, the board suspended travel reimbursement until September of 2021. What should the association encourage in terms of face-to-face versus online meetings? How many units will run in the fall of 2020, the winter, the following spring? Which of the pandemic practices for accreditation and certification will continue? What will happen in the US elections, and what will be the impact on the US economy? What comes next for the COVID-19 pandemic? What comes next in our conversations with strategic partners? And what does the membership want from this process? Thank you for your commitment to ACPE, for your work with students in this challenging moment, and for your support of our team in the office. We look forward to supporting you as we make our way into whatever the future holds. Thank you for your time today and for your participation in this member meeting. Melissa, back to you.
Are there any questions for our executive director concerning his report? If so, please enter them in the chat box. Are there any questions, John?
I'm not seeing any, Melissa. This is Trace.
Okay, thank you. I can't see that stuff, so.
It's okay.
Thank you, Trace, for your report. We appreciate your leadership, and no action is necessary for this report. I have gotten a text from Linda Wilkerson, who's up next with the treasurer's report, that she can't get on. So she's asking if John can make it possible for her to speak by her phone or via her phone.
Let me see what I can do. One moment.
Let me note that the one question that I did not include in my list that Tammy Day graciously offered is, as we look to the future, what will also our ongoing commitment to anti-racism and anti-bias look like within the association?
Thank you.
While we're waiting, I also will highlight, I'm going to highlight this again, but you'll see several of us are wearing our ACPE Proud wear today. we want to encourage folks to explore what we have there. And at the last slide in the presentation today has a link and can tell you a little bit more about that.
John, Linda is on and can hear, but she cannot speak. It's not picking up somehow.
All right, hang on. Linda, I just sent you a request to unmute yourself. It says that you are self-muted. In the control panel, under the orange arrow, you should see a green circle with a green or red circle with a microphone in it.
With the chair's permission, in the interest of keeping the meeting moving forward, I'm happy to deliver Linda's pieces until she's able to connect.
Okay. So then we'll begin hearing the report from the treasurer via the executive director. So please go ahead.
Yep, John, can you advance the slides?
Okay.
Hang on, I have to pull up Linda's report now too.
Linda didn't have any slides.
Thank you. Okay, if you're able to access the packet, this begins on page 3. Treasurer's report to ACPE. Linda begins with the following. First, I want to recognize the members of the Finance Committee, David Johnson, Barbara Sheehan, James Egoff, Nanglong Ling, Jennifer Rochner, Mark Medwed, and me, Trace. We meet regularly to review the financial status of ACPE and to propose an annual budget to the Board of Directors. Like most of you have experienced, the last few months have been a wild ride for ACPE, and I imagine that we have some rough weather ahead also. I'm happy to report that ACPE remains in good financial condition and that we expect to weather the storms, receive a clean audit for 2019, and have managed our expenses well during this period during which our revenue's been down. We've also had enough cash on hand to see us through the end of the year without having to dip into reserves. Now, one of the pages past this is the 2020 revised budget that was recently created and will be brought to the Board of Directors for their approval. This budget accounts for the reduced income and reduced expenses necessitated during the pandemic. We believe we will still receive about 70% of the revenue and accreditation fees, the bulk of our income, that we would normally expect, and have reduced expenses accordingly. Should revenue exceed these expectations, we will use those funds to reduce the amount of reserve funds we originally budgeted for the creation of our new database. We will have a better understanding of the impact of the pandemic on our registered and completed units of CPE once the summer is over. At that point, we may once again need to revise the budget. We've decided not to draw on foundation funds if possible so that we can help the foundation to get back to its pre-pandemic level. You'll be hearing a report from Patrick McCoy about the ACPE Foundation, but I can tell you that we are now about $200,000 down from where we were on January 1st. In early spring, when we began to realize the impact of this long-lasting pandemic, the board, at the recommendation of the Finance Committee, voted to suspend all in-person ACPE-related meetings until at least September 2021, unless the CDC relaxed its recommendations regarding larger in-person meetings. Though this was a tough call because we know how much our members enjoy face-to-face meetings, we also realized that with so much uncertainty, we could not in good conscience enter any meeting contracts with vendors. As of June 2020, our revenue was $1,537,479, which was 46% of what was originally budgeted, as I said. We expect to get 70% of our originally budgeted revenue. Our expenses were $1,278,913, which was 38% of what was originally budgeted. We did apply for and receive $267,000 from the Federal Paycheck Protection Program. And because we meet the established criteria, we do not believe we will need to pay any of this money back. Beginning in January, our accreditation fee billing process changed to quarterly invoices based on registered student units. We've had a very positive response to the new process and the new invoice format that includes the roster of registered students. As noted in the newsletter, the second quarter invoices will be sent in early August due to the launch of the new database. We thank you for your patience during this year of transition. We continue to move towards a single student unit rate, and we anticipate reaching this goal in 5 years. For 2021, we will be down to 4 zones with plans to decrease that number each year. To find out your center's rates for the next 3 years, you can contact our finance team at accounting@acpe.edu. Finally, please pay close attention to This Week at ACPE every Monday for updates and reminders about billing. If you are not receiving this communication, please contact John Roche at the office so that you will always be up to date. Respectfully submitted, Linda Wilkerson, Treasurer Secretary for ACPE.
Are there any questions for the treasurer concerning the report? Thank you, Linda, for your diligence in preparing the report, and thank you, Trace, for presenting it.
There are a couple of questions that I'll try to address quickly. One was a question about how individual rates are determined for each center. We have gone before the consolidation of the regions. Each region had its own rate for students, and then there was a consistent national rate across the country. We've been slowly trying to move those regional rates into a single rate. And so your accreditation fee is based on both that historic rate as it's moved towards the consolidated rate, based on the number of students who are registered in your units. Question about why are we not transparent and post the zone fees? I think those are available, but we can clarify that after the meeting. The question is the budget down due to non-payments, loss of centers, or some other reason. The revenue is down largely due to the fact that about a third of summer units did not run. So if we don't have students, then we don't have revenue. And so some have picked up, and some centers have actually picked up students who were places. That's great. Question about whether student unit rates are being reduced. They're really being consolidated. So we'll have to give you a more elaborate answer to that question. It's not as simple as up and down. I wish I could be more specific, Mary Burke. Sorry about that. Those are the only questions I have, Melissa. So feel free.
Thank you. It's with great pleasure now that the chair recognizes Patrick McCoy to present a report from the ACPE Foundation.
There we go. Unmuting myself turned out to be a bigger deal than I thought it would be. It's good to be with you though today, even with this kind of distant sort of format, to talk with you a bit about the ACPE Foundation and how we've been doing and what we've been doing. I want to take a couple of minutes. There's a packet that includes a report regarding the foundation, and you've already heard a little bit about our activities and performance, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background before I did that. One of the purpose of the ACPE Foundation is to secure the funding that supports our mission and promotes the innovative developments of our organization. We're responsible for development of financial assets and for management and safeguarding of the ACPE endowment. We're structured as a Type 1 supporting organization under IRS regulations, which means that we have a kind of parent-child, me being the child, relationship with ACPE. So we have our own board of directors, but our bylaws stipulate that our action is subject to the authority of the ACPE board of directors, assuring alignment with its purposes, goals, and the strategies of ACPE. The Foundation Board of Directors is appointed by the ACPE Board, which further ensures that alignment. And our bylaws require that at least half of our members, members of our board that is, are certified educators, and that the chair and vice chair should also be certified educators. The chair of ACPE's board this year, Melissa Walker-Luckert, is an ex officio member, which again helps for that to provide the kind of integration of purpose and strategy with ACPE and secure the foundation's assets for the purposes of ACPE. Current certified educator members of the board include Dagmar Greffa, David Carl, George Grant, Sally Schwab, Linda Wilkerson, Melissa, and Brooks Hurd. Additional board members bring expertise from the financial and legal sectors, along with networking connections with various not-for-profits that are engaged in various ways and working in the domains of relief of human suffering. Those board members this year include Tom White, our treasurer, Helen McNeil, Bard Brockman, Chris McCain, and Loretta Shelton, and I express my appreciation to each of those members for their work not only on the board but in various committee functions of the board. Our staff is includes Trace Haythorne, who is our executive director as well as ACPE's director, and Jasmine Okafor is the development specialist who carries out most of the functions of the ACPE Foundation. Activities of the foundation include primarily fundraising, fund management, and some program activities. The fundraising includes the annual campaign, which is this year chaired by certified educator and new dad, Dave Brooks Hurd, chairing an effort that has produced so far something in the neighborhood of close to $27,000 out of a $100,000 budget for the year. That's somewhat below year-to-date performance based on prior year's history, but we still think that it's a reasonable goal to maintain for the $100,000, even given the difficult circumstances. In addition, the May Giving Tuesday event exceeded its $5,000 goal, raising over $7,000 from generous ACPE members that will enhance our innovative program awards. More about that in a moment. A second function of our fundraising is planned giving, which is an emphasis that Jasmine has been exploring and developing in the last couple of years. This is still a relatively new endeavor for us as a board, but one that we think has great potential for supporting ACPE programs over the long haul for the future. Those include generous and thoughtful donors that ensure that ACPE remains the gold standard in spiritual care and education for future generations. An example is a recent planned gift offered by ACPE certified educator Emily Wolf, which enabled ACPE to upgrade website and database infrastructure to be more responsive to the needs of our members and our students. The third dimension of fundraising is grant writing and administration. And there are a number of grants that we either apply for directly or participate in with collaborative partners, including the Chaplaincy Innovation Lab and Transforming Chaplaincy and the George Washington Institute for Spirituality and Health. Many of those programs are programs that we work with through Trace's involvement as a co-investigator. And they help us with the expense of providing that work on our behalf. Additional grants in the past have included supports for infrastructure improvements on behalf of the organization that improves the way that we're able to function as an organization. A major second activity is fund management, which focuses mostly on the board designated endowment, but includes also two designated funds. One is the Glaze Plummer Fund, which supports continuing education activities for certified educators, and the MAP, or Mission Advancement Program Fund, which supports the work of the Psychotherapy Commission. The fund performance overall this year reflects the kind of ups and downs that nobody on this audience, I'm sure, is going to be surprised about. We entered the year with an endowment of $5,927,000 plus, which was up $2 million over January of the prior year. But by March, we had lost significant funding to a low of $4,587,000. What might be a bit of a surprise is that we have rebounded considerably, so that as of the end of June, our endowment fund amounted to about $5,640,000. So a significant bounce back. I think we need to recognize that we're continuing into a very difficult economic environment, both nationally and globally, and we can't necessarily count on the directions of the markets in the near term or maybe even the midterm. But the ACPE Foundation is an investment for the long term, and our investment strategy is focused on developing long-term quality assets with the primary goal of providing the income to support ACPE programs. Just a little side note here, I happened to notice earlier today that when the ACPE Foundation was established in 2007, it was established with an initial fund of $850,000. So in the intervening 13 years, we've seen growth of our assets to $5.5 million at this point. So we've done very well over the long period, and that will continue, I think, to support our programs. In addition to those major efforts of the ACPE Foundation, there are several programs that we take responsibility for. One of these is the Innovative Program Grants, which have in past years funded programs modeling such things as Spanish language CPE, including developing Spanish language materials, CPE in street ministry settings, CPE in prison settings, CPE for prisoners, and some in one outstanding example, CPE with community and police chaplains in another remarkable example of program development. And additionally, international CPE with a support of a Muslim-based spiritual care organization in Southeast Asia. Currently, for the year 2020, the committee that governs this program is focusing on how the current year's program can develop approaches to sustain ACPE programming in the COVID-19 environment with its expected stresses on our ACPE programs and educators. The second program is the MAP grants, again, the Mission Advancement Program grants that are focused on the psychotherapy commission work. Last year's program grant was focused on launching the spiritually integrated psychotherapy training program that AAPC had been working on for many years prior to their joining us in our union. And for this year, the committee that oversees that grant fund is exploring how MAP grants might address mental health implications of the pandemic. There is the Glaze Plummer lecture is supported by the Glaze Plummer Fund, which is a special endowed fund that brings a lecture each year to the ACPE annual meeting. This year's lecture will be online next week from tomorrow in the afternoon. And our lecturer will be Claudia Byram, who is a leader in the System-Centered Training Institute, who will be talking with us about functional subgrouping in educational settings. The ACPE Service Awards program is another program of the foundation, along with the Boys and Scholars program, which this year designated 9 scholars who would have been funded in their attendance at the annual meeting. But this year the board decided to divert those funds to allow each of those recipients to participate in some professional development activity as an alternative, so that they could use the Boys and Scholars program to fulfill its intent of developing new leaders for ACPE in the future. And finally, the Foundation Research Grants Committee has been formed within the last several months as a new initiative to establish and determine a process for collaboration with the ACPE Research Committee to support investigations that will advance the evidence base for effective spiritual care and best practices in the future. So that's the report for the FCPE or ACPE Foundation. I want to thank each of you for the many ways that you work and serve the common mission of ACPE to care for the spiritual needs of our world through service and through the education of future spiritual care professionals. Thank you also, especially, for your support of the Foundation for ACPE through your gifts to the annual campaign. You can make a significant gift to ACPE that costs you nothing now, not through the annual campaign, which will cost you something now or soon, but by naming the Foundation for ACPE in your will as a beneficiary of your retirement plan assets, life insurance policy, or investment accounts. And that kind of gift will keep on giving for years to come. If you'd like to have further information about that kind of opportunity to participate in the future of ACPE, I invite you to contact Jasmine Okafor, ACPE's development specialist. And thanks again for your attention. That completes my report.
Thank you, Patrick, for this report, and thank you to all those who work to support the ACPE Foundation. Now it's with great pleasure that the chair recognizes Shawn Mai to present a report from the Leadership Development Committee.
And I also am sporting my ACPE Proud t-shirt, and just want to take a moment to recognize our great staff at the ACPE office that has put together a great week next week that we'll be celebrating. So my name is Shawn Mai, and I'm an ACPE educator, and I'm talking to you from Park Nicollet Methodist Hospital in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. I'm also chair of the Leadership Development Committee for the ACPE Board of Directors, as well as chair-elect for the board. I work along with Satoe Soga, Jill Rasmussen Baker, Mary Brown, Sandra Casey, BJ Larson, and Gordon Hillsman who we work together and make up the Leadership Development Committee. And part of our work is facilitating the election of members to open positions on the commissions and committees for ACPE, and that's why I'm talking with you today. ACPE has done important work the last several years, restructuring its governance and leadership models to better poise itself for long-term organizational health. And we are in year 3 of the reorganization, and the scope of ACPE's work has broadened considerably. We're all aware of these challenging times, and I think we would all say that ACPE is in a much stronger place to weather these difficult days. So the Leadership Development Committee of the board exists to support a strong future for ACPE and has been true throughout its history. The work of this organization is done by the time and talent of its members, and the passion and gifts of each one of you drives this organization. So John, if you want to go to the next slide and the next slide. I became a board member several years back through filling a spot vacated by an esteemed colleague from the old North Central region, Tim Thorstensen. Initially, the profundity I felt about my own CPE experience gave this kind of undefined, glorified otherness to my sense of ACPE leadership. But upon arrival, what I found on the board was just bundled passion and fierce commitment to the ideals of this transformational process that we all work with. And I just found other educators who, like me, had the goal of securing the future for ACPE in this timeless process. So I ask you, are you wanting to engage the kind of growth and learning that you enjoyed in your ACPE experience? What I would invite you to do is consider applying for an open leadership position on one of the commissions or committees of the ACPE board, and to work alongside your peers and colleagues who are waiting for your gifts. So I wanted to just quickly introduce to you those possibilities of putting your gifts and talents to work. If you want to advance the slide, there we go. There's our esteemed chair, Melissa. She's an ACPE educator at Children's Hospital in Dallas, and the board, among other things, has the primary responsibility of financial stewardship and strategic direction of the organization. There's thousands of things that we could be doing, but it's the work of the board to help us find a strategic direction where we can, place our resources and our energy. Next slide. Accreditation. Pam is a certified educator at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. She's the chair of accreditation, and that group asks, have you ever been involved in the accreditation process beyond your own center, or even more importantly, are you detailed oriented but also flexible? So the commission is looking for people like you to join their forces. Certification. Cecelia is an ACPE educator in Birmingham, Alabama, and the Certification Commission is the future of ACPE. As we all know, the certification process is core to our work, and the commission continues to work with our certification process to keep a timely certification process moving, to keep up with the demands of filling educator positions while also safeguarding the integrity of the certification process. Professional ethics is chaired by Cristina, and she is an educator in St. Louis, Missouri at St. Louis University Hospital. And the Ethics Commission works closely with our strategic partners, APC, NACC, NAJC. We work together in an ethics process to provide trained, informed, ethical oversight of our organizations. The Psychotherapy Commission is led by Joanne, who's a licensed mental health counselor and ACPE psychotherapist member. and she's at St. John's University in Jamaica, New York. And I think this commission, which is our newest, is a beautiful melding of the work of AAPC and ACPE, as exemplified in lots of good stuff that we've seen in the ACPE weekly newsletter with continuing education, and also be watching for their online conference that they're organizing coming up in October. Trace talked a little bit about the advocacy committee. Jeremy is a ACPE educator from Durham, North Carolina. And as Trace mentioned, the advocacy committee has been working with the anti-bias task force and the curriculum committee on this new series 846 series. And you'll see Jeremy, I think, hosting the first one coming up, I believe, at the end of the week. So the curriculum committee has been working with advocacy to develop this important body of work. Jamie is an ACPE certified educator and director for the Center of Contemplative Chaplaincy at Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado. She chairs curriculum, and they want to know, do you think creatively about CPE curriculum? Is that something you think a lot about? Are you reflective about the quality of CPE? And do you understand CPE as a movement and not just an organization? That lights the fire in your belly, consider joining the work of this curriculum committee. You heard Linda's finance report. Linda is a retired ACPE educator. She's also the secretary treasurer of ACPE. And the business and stewardship of ACPE's resources are paramount to our future. If you have a love of Excel spreadsheets and how things add up, and you have a lot of passion about how we keep this movement going through funding, consider applying for an open position on the finance committee. Biju is an ACPE educator in Jacksonville, Florida. He leads the International Relations Committee, and Trace shared some of that substantive work that's going on across the globe. And it's no small task to facilitate the volume of inquiries that are coming in about ACPE's work from around the globe, but also keeping an eye on the alignment of standards and quality assurance with these endeavors like the ones that Trace mentioned in Ireland and Australia. Talked a little bit about the Leadership Development Committee. We'll move on to the Professional Wellbeing Committee, and David Hutchinson is an ACPE certified educator in Huntington, West Virginia. And the work of this committee is key to the transformative work that the Communities of Practice is doing. And if you are invested in ACPE as a connectional organization, the work of this committee may be where your passion and energy can be channeled. And finally, the Research Committee. Moses is a certified educator from Kettering, Ohio, and research has become key in the articulation of the work that we do, and demonstrating the significance of transformative education and advancing research literacy are two ways that this committee are providing leadership in ACPE. Very important work. So I invite you to go to the APC website, go to the news tab on the website and click on volunteer leadership opportunities. And you'll see that there's some great information that is shared by Stephen Robinson, who's led the Leadership Development Committee. In the midst of that article that he wrote about the process, there's a link that you can just click on. It's online form. Click the form, fill out the application, and the process is that the Leadership Development Committee will follow up with interviews for the open positions and pairing gifts and talents with the different work of the committees and the commissions. So just finally want to thank you members for your heart and your passion for this organization, and we move this work forward together. So Melissa, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Shawn, for your report. And thank you to all of you who work on the Leadership Development Committee. It truly is a working committee, and I appreciate so much what you do. I'd now like to turn our attention to 2 bylaws changes recommended by the Board of Directors. The changes are included in your handouts, and we are also displaying them on the screen now. Thank you, John. The proposed changes align our bylaws with current practice and do not require any additional resources. ACPE's bylaws may be altered, amended, or repealed by an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members voting. ACPE members will vote online on the proposed bylaws changes during ACPE's October election when we elect our new leadership. The proposed changes will be posted online with the slate of candidates beginning in September. Members are encouraged to send your feedback to the board via the chat now or by phone or email after the meeting. Are there any chats about this?
I'm not seeing any yet.
One question about, hasn't the foundation chair always been an ex officio member? So is the only change that they can vote? That is correct. Because this was not explicitly stated in the bylaws, there was a request from the foundation that be made so that there would never be any confusion there.
Thank you, Trace. Any other chat questions? Hearing none, I'm sorry?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Next, it's with great pleasure that the chair now recognizes Catherine Higgins to present a report about our communities of practice. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Melissa. It's good to be here today. As many of you all know, I began in a new role with ACPE in January of this year as Director of Communities of Practice. I work closely with the Professional Wellbeing Committee and really am grateful for this opportunity just to sketch out a little bit about where we are with communities of practice and tell you a little bit about where we're headed. So as you probably know, communities of practice, or COPs as we call them, came into the life of ACPE in January of 2018. That was the time of our major organizational redesign. And COPs really encourage the best of what we do together, learning together, developing new leaders, advancing the profession, holding one another accountable. And back in January of 2018, when we started, we thought maybe we'd have a dozen or so. And I'm delighted to tell you that 2.5 years in, we have 95 communities of practice. And so I want to just paint a bit of a picture about what those communities look like. So John, I do have a slide, if you would advance. Of the 95 communities of practice, 44 are what we might call a chapter. And that is a local expression of the work of ACPE. So these include former regions, they include peer groups, CEC training consortia. Then we have theory or curriculum groups. We have about 12 of these. This would be, for example, the arts and spiritual care and education, the Enneagram, the SCT group, the family systems group, those sort of theoretical foundations for the work that we do. We've got a group that I like to call context, 13 of those, and those may either be a particular role. For example, there's a COP for administrators of system centers. And then we've got certain contexts for CPE. So for example, CPE in the behavioral health setting, or the Veterans Affairs CPE. Next, we've got affinity groups, which are, we've got 10 of those. These include both denominational groups, like the Alliance of Baptists or the Church of the Nazarene, and then racial or ethnic and or identity groups. So for example, REM, which has a very long history in our organization, is a community of practice. And then we have the final category are the psychotherapist seat groups. Now this is a little bit of an artificial distinction because they could be distributed in all the other types of groups as well. But back at the time of the consolidation with AAPC, the Interim Psychotherapy Commission identified about 15 groups that they thought would be valuable on-ramps and points of connection and participation for former AAPC members in the life of ACPE. Currently, if you're a certified educator, you ought to be a member of a community of practice, as that is a requirement now. And our other members throughout the organization are strongly encouraged to participate. The way to join a COP is through our online Microsoft-based social media platform, which is Yammer. Hopefully you all have had the experience of logging into Yammer, taking a look around. If you have not, or you've not been able to do that and you need some help, please feel free to reach out. Be happy to show you around. In terms of communities of practice and how they're funded and financed, let me tell you that pre-COVID, the COP budget was around $275,000. It may surprise you to know that only about 1/3 of the 95 communities of practice receive any type of funding from ACPE. So the vast majority do their operations on a shoestring or nothing in terms of financial support. Post-COVID in 2020, our actual spending will likely be around 30 to 40% of that original budget. For 2021, we've begun sifting through the requests, and we're looking at probably about 40% of that original 2020 budget, largely because of the decision not to host any in-person meetings until the fourth quarter. So we have lots of COPs that are incredibly creative and are really making lemonade out of the lemons that 2020 has handed us. But the Eastern area community of practice, I'd give them a shout out. They were one of the first groups that made the decision to cancel their in-person gathering and shift to an online format. And perhaps ironically, the content, the focus of their in-person gathering was going to be embodied supervision. And so they quickly readjusted and did a whole web conference on disembodied supervision, which feels very pertinent. And we look forward to sharing some of the stories about what they've learned and discovered through that. To just say a bit about where we're headed, we are continuing to beef up the resources and the support behind the scenes for things like event planning. We're also working on sharing resources for leadership for COPs, ways to tell the stories of the incredible work that you're doing. Many of these will be available to you in the coming weeks on the new website and in the new SharePoint site, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And we're also dreaming about new ways that we might gather together when it's safe to do so. So for example, could we envision a hub model where lots of communities come together in one centralized location at one time, and where the landscape of communities of practice within ACPE might be viewed as a learning experience in and of itself, so that the boundaries between communities can be a point of learning and growth for the whole organization. I'll just close by saying that I invite conversation. If you have ideas about communities that you're interested in starting, if you're wondering about how to recalibrate the activities of your COP in light of the current state of the world, if you'd like to dream about what this could look like in your area or in your context, please reach out. I'd love to be in conversation with you, and my contact information is there and also available on the website. And with that, I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, for your report regarding our communities of practice. Now we turn to the Journal of Reflective Practice, and it's with great pleasure that I recognize Nancy Wood to present a report from the Journal of Reflective Practice. Welcome.
Thanks, Melissa. I am Nancy Wood, and as of May, I am now a full certified educator, so that feels really great. And because now that I don't have time to spend working on CEC stuff, I decided that I would be excited to do some work with the Journal of Reflective Practice. And so I'm grateful to have a few minutes to talk to you all about that. First, I want to take the opportunity to thank Scott Sullender for 6 years that he has served as editor of Reflective Practice. Along with the board, Scott has ably led the journal through significant changes in the publishing world, all while ensuring that the journal continues to provide a vibrant forum for reflection on our supervisory practice. So thank you, Scott. I wish we were in person so we could all cheer you and clap for you, but it's happening virtually. As of a few months ago, the Reverend Matthew Floating and I assumed co-editorship of Reflective Practice. Matt is the Director of Ministerial Formation at Duke Divinity School, and he is also active in ACPE, which is the Association for Theological Field Education. And I'm delighted to be working with him as we seek to further connection and collaboration between ACPE and ACPE. We are at work on the next volume of Reflective Practice, and our theme will surprise no one. It is really the only theme I think we can think of in this moment. So the 2021 journal will be focused around the concept, the theme of ministerial formation in times of crisis. We invite you to consider writing about your supervisory practice in this particular moment. And you may have all kinds of burning questions that I am not mentioning here, but a few of the ones that are occupying my mind are: what has changed for us? What remains the same? What theories are we leaning into? Maybe they are new theories, maybe we're letting go of some old theories. So how is theory informing your practice, and what are you learning? We hope to have volume 41 to you in print and on the web by March 1st of 2021. And our deadline for submission is October 15th, although we'd love to hear from you as soon as you have an idea to bounce around. We are, as co-editors, we're here to support you in your creative practice and be a sounding board and a source of support as editors. My email is in this week's installment of This Week at ACPE, and I think that's going to be true for next week as well. You can look me up in the ACPE directory, and also if you go to the Reflective Practice website, which you should do, you can find my email there. So I look forward to hearing from you and particularly reading your words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy, for your report from the Journal of Reflective Practice, and congratulations. So this is, we've come to the conclusion of our business time of the business of the annual meeting. And I'd like to offer a very special word of thanks, or many words of thanks actually, to the ACPE staff. They have, in addition to pulling together next week's ACPE Proud Week and helping us rethink many aspects of our national meeting, they have also set us up for the launch of a new database and a new website, all next week, and all remotely from their own homes. It's just amazing to me. This team has spent countless hours behind the scenes working to improve the quality of the tools that support our work. They have been striving to address our concerns and suggestions, and in overall reducing our costs. I really wish that we could show them our appreciation in person, but I want to say a huge thanks, huge thanks to Mark Medwed, John Roche, Jasmine Okafor, Tiffany Kindred, Ruth McPhail Ubaldo, Sheila Hawk, Kimberly Yates, Catherine Higgins, Jennifer Rockner, Brandy Thompson, and Carl Jones Reed. Thank you all for your dedication to the association. And with that, the chair declares this annual meeting adjourned.
One more slide.
Okay, one more slide. There you go.
We just want to share one more time with you what we're doing for ACPE Proud Week. We have tried to give you a couple of educational opportunities as well as some celebrations. We, in addition to the ACPE garb, we have mugs, we have masks, all sorts of things that are available for you. We're doing some special Anton Boyson things that are available here for the next few days. You can see on the screen right now, if you're still with us, that if you put in the promo code member20, you get 20% off anything you purchase today. So this is your discount moment. This is our big sale. We hope you can see that. John, can you take it back over to the slide that's got the activities for the week? Thank you. The events include the memorial service, board chair installation, yay Melissa. CPE for Leaders is one of the education opportunities, and then system-centered functional subgrouping is the second educational piece. That will precede the commencement ceremony, and I can't wait for you all to see the amazing work the team has done in weaving all of these different video pieces together. Thank you for those of you who've submitted pieces. It really should be a delightful time. It's just been such a pleasure to see people bubble as they've produced these new pieces. Our staff designed the ACPE Proud logo, and when this week is over, there will be the standard logo and some other materials that will be available through the store. So the store is not going away. We will still have these things, and we hope to promote several of them during Spiritual Care Week in October. So just to push it one more time, please join us. Those of you who have been donors, we hope that you will be a part of the donor celebration. It is Thursday the 6th at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. We hope that you can join us for all of these activities. All the proceeds that come out of the store go to benefit the foundation. So it just helps build out our annual campaign. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you so much. Thank you, Melissa, for your leadership. Especially, nobody signs up to chair an organization in a time like this. So thank you so much for the time and the dedication.
Thank you.